and welcome to Wait, It Gets Better, the Improvisational Storytelling podcast, where every week, a couple of guys, just being dudes, palling around like boys do, we come up with ideas for you to listen to and enjoy. I am, of course, guy number 1, Levi.
Guy number 2, Reed.
Guy number 3, Seth.
And we are here to tell you a story. What? Do we need to do a recap? Do you guys remember what happened last time? I'll do a recap. You guys can remind me if I do a bad job. So what we do is we have a post-apocalyptic world. We have how the apocalypse happened was the AI. They were coming after us. We did some strange form of atmospheric science or magic, and it sort of cut off the whole world from AI. But it also created weird atmospheric effects that spawned these cards, kind of like Magic the Gathering, will spawn the ability to charge cards, kind of like Magic the Gathering. So depending on the atmospheric effect that they experience, whether it be a thunderstorm, a volcano, a tornado, they'll be charged in different ways. The other thing that's kind of interesting is that there are these robots that sort of travel around the world. There's 144,000 of them, and they kind of work themselves around the world. They are sort of impassive to human beings. What they are is they're part of the AI network that it's now cut off because of this atmospheric stuff. We have a city that's up on a hill, that's up on a mountain, kind of, and it is I think like the source of where the story is happening. There's a hero who has kind of a lot of experience with the cards. What was his name again? Bar, right.
Bartholomew Barjohn.
And he has he has like an observatory, and he does experiments with the cards, and he puts cards on the robots, and then when they come back a year later, he can view their sort of, what powers they have. And then we have our wise old woman, and Bar has like gunslinger kind of guys who are just out in the world kind of collecting information and doing stuff for him, as his kind of his cadre of power. He sort of has influence in that way. The wise old woman is, I don't remember her name. Sophia. I came up with it. I don't remember her name. She is a wind talker or a storm watcher. So she can see, when she was very young, she could see this atmospheric effect and how it would manifest and create sort of crazy environmental things happening throughout the world. And she could also see the cards and anything that sort of held this power. And so she has been, for the last 50 years, in this high tower, watching over the world, kind of warning people about when some big atmospheric storm is going to come to them, or when people want their cards appraised, they'd bring them to her. She has pretty much gone blind at this point, but she can still see plain as day the power. This atmospheric power is that's bound itself to the cards, she can still see it. So the thing that's happening is some kind of eclipse, right? It's a lunar eclipse. And during the lunar eclipse, the AI that is still on the moon has a straight path into the Earth. And this kind of shield atmospheric interference sort of abates for a little bit, and it sends down, the AI classically has sent down things to attack. And so this festival that's happening right now is kind of a festival / a defense strategy. Sophia's great-great-granddaughter is being is being sort of christened as the new watcher during this festival. And Sophia is like an old, like sharp as a tack person, but people often miscount her because she seems sort of old and docile, but she is incredibly manipulative, but that's not a bad word. She's a mover and shaker. She moves things in the background, and you don't feel the tremors of what she's doing until it's too late. Heroes. So now we have this week and the prophecy. What was the prophecy, Reed?
There was it was the card of unintended consequences.
Right.
And it's the story that's kind of retold around the campfire, as the old ones tell young ones of the great catastrophe. The profligate use of the magically powered cards tended to produce a cascade of unforeseen results. spawning ever more spectacular events, charging ever more powerfully charged magic cards.
Right.
And it's said that the card, which can predict and forestall the unintended consequences, will be found in an ancient crypt, an artifact called Seth's Bible.
Right. As a callback to the original magic system, Seth told a story about it. If you want to know about that, go listen to the episode. One thing I was thinking about this was, maybe I've mentioned this before when you mentioned this, Reed, but one of Oppenheimer's fears when they were going to test the nuclear bomb, not just his, but like all the scientists with him, is that there was like a non-0% chance that they could, the nuclear blast could essentially continue and just light the atmosphere on fire.
Yeah, just to get critical mass and unending chain reaction that consumes the whole planet.
Yeah. So I have this kind of idea that maybe that happened a lot when wars and things were fought before. And that's why the office that Sophia holds in the tower was built, so that someone could watch over the reactions as they were happening and warn people to not use this type of card in this area of the world, for 2 weeks until the energy dies down, because if you don't, it's going to set off this chain reaction, which is just going to continue to build, this kind of forecasting control.
Right.
And that's a thing that they're scared of. Everyone's scared of that happening, because maybe during this eclipse, this atmospheric effect covers the whole world completely. And so if anyone sort of as much as sneezes on one of these cards, everything could just blow up. I don't know. Anyways, what story elements did you guys have for this week? I had villain.
I have unique restaurant.
I had Hero's Sidekick.
Hero's Sidekick. All right. Let's hear unique vehicle.
Okay.
I mean, unique restaurant.
Yeah. The name of it is The Nexus, and it's been around. Its proprietor serving food for time out of mind, Bilbo Baggins would say. It's just located, basically cut into the rock up the slope from town, just below the watchtower.
Yeah.
And along one side of this are several niches where usually, several of these androids will go into shutdown mode, of an evening. The whole thing is then they become these stationary kiosks where people can come and do trade and offer various things of value, and they could get either information of value back or how to get, how to trade their goods or whatever. They have kind of just taken it upon themselves to make sure that the Nexus always has plenty of materials, plenty of food, plenty of supplies to keep, the operation going there. The proprietors are interested in keeping the age-old tradition of the Nexus as a gathering place, literally where, exchange of information and views, and even views that differ are, invited to hold forth. And it's kind of a regular spot. Sophia, the wise old woman, is a regular, and there's usually a cadre of, bars, gunslingers on hand to ensure the peace. It's kind of a taboo. You can disagree, but without being disagreeable, so to speak, at this place.
Right.
Yeah. And but it is also a place where, you can always find in the evening, you can find one of these androids if you have business to transact. And it's kind of a hub, that's hence the name, the gathering place, the intersection of disparate movements, shall we say, of human endeavor. That make any sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was just wondering, I was thinking about this while you were explaining the prophecy again. That's really interesting. The name of Seth is a boy's name, and in Hebrew, the origin meaning appointed or placed. So Seth's Bible could be a bunker.
Yeah, I'll have to admit, without making it explicit, I had that in mind when I was thinking about unique restaurant. But I don't know,
Right, but what kind of card is it? That's the question.
Mm-hmm.
So the card that it was originally was a destroy artifact card, which I think would be fitting because it's, you guys were talking, I was thinking about it. And what you probably have is a supercharged destroy artifact card.
Right.
And it is what they took down the AI with.
Oh, okay.
Destroying its artifact kind of connection and exiling it. I think there was an exile thing if you prorated it. I don't think that's the word they used, but paid an extra,
boosted it or whatever.
Yeah. And so then I think maybe that's what disconnected or destroyed the AI artifact and exiled it. So obviously they're coming back, but I think that the twist would be is if one were to use that on the cards, which are also an artifact, it would destroy that whole system as well.
Right. I was thinking it would be something kind of like a well. It's like you'd use it and then it would kind of like just suck everything. Because the idea is that it's the answer to the unintended consequences, right? So it can kind of stop a chain reaction as it's going. That's what I was thinking of. But I kind of like that idea maybe better. Maybe it was the first card that was made, and it's what sort of started this whole atmospheric stuff. And it, like, all we're seeing, like when you play Magic the Gathering, when I play an instant and then you play an instant, that goes onto a stack, and then someone else plays a sorcery, and then you resolve all of these card effects as they were played. So it's like this card from the vault is still in effect, right? We're just seeing the working out of whatever it is this card does. Kind of like when I have this really specific example in my brain. It's like when there's this video online where this guy walks in and his light switch doesn't work, and so he goes to replace the light switch, but then he goes to replace the light bulb, but then the shelf breaks. So then he goes to get the thing to fix the shelf, and the door is squeaky. So then he goes into the garage to get the WD-40, but it's empty. So then he goes to get into his car to go to the store to get more WD-40, but it makes a weird noise. And then it cuts to a scene of his wife opening the garage door and saying, "Honey, did you see that the light is burnt out?" And he's covered in grease. The engine is out of his car. And he goes, "Can't you see I'm working on it?"
That's so great. That's terrific.
Yeah, those are the unintended consequences. This cascade of things. Like almost like this card is still resolving.
Yes.
And it's like, well, in order to kill the AI, in order to destroy, or maybe not to kill, maybe not to destroy, maybe what was asked of it was to disable the AI.
Right.
I have to bring you through 200 years of change to the evolutionary atmospheric system in order to equip you with the tools to disable the AI. If you had said destroy the AI, that would have taken 1,000 years. But because you said disable, it's only going to take you 150 years.
Right.
That sort of thing is what's happening right now. So this card is in play, right? And maybe it's that prophecy combined with this once every 150 year eclipse that's like, is this it? Is this the end of this thing?
Right.
Oh, here's another thing, because I think I didn't catch that it was found in the crypt of Seth's Bible. I think the connectivity went in and out for me, and so I didn't catch that last week. But now that he says it this week, an interesting fact is that perhaps this card is more ancient. There is a reference to the pyramids old ago as being the ladder of Seth, or in essence the book, because in one thing they used to have the limestone, and some of the accounts said that they had writing on it, so it was considered like a tower or a book.
Yeah.
In some references. Make a long story short, I think in the King's Chamber, there was that empty sarcophagus, but if all the measurements, the King's Chamber has been blown out, like I think it's like 1/8 of an inch, but it's like solid fit together stone. So there was something that they figure might have happened or emanated from there that would have pushed all the like interlocked stones out.
Right.
Around it, like 1/8 of an inch. So perhaps this is something that, I don't know if you've ever seen that thing where it's like, people make AI, AI enslaves humanity, the sun destroys AI. So then people start worshiping the sun.
Right.
Kind of idea, reciprocal thing.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea.
And perhaps something like that. So like, because everybody's like, oh, what did they find in the pyramid? What was it? And what if it was something similar to that, where they had used that as a base or a base of operation that would have disabled it years ago. And then that's what they would have found. Maybe back at a certain point, that was like, maybe that's what was really in the Ark of the Covenant. I don't know.
Right. That was what was in the Ark of the Covenant.
And so then, and then it would have been brought to the United States, either probably after like World War II. Maybe, they took it from the Nazis. And so then they were doing the studying with it. Maybe that's what then eventually, aided them to do, basically they found a way to recharge it and then they used it. And perhaps that's what they, they did. So the disabling. And so that's why we have now, all that, atmospheric supercharging of these other cards.
Right. Well, I like this idea that the AI have been on the moon for longer than just like 150 years. Maybe initially they were fought off, they were fought off and something was put in place to protect the Earth. But then through time and just how people forget about what's happening, it sort of all fell out of it stopped being relevant because you go a couple generations past the AI and it's like, come on, great grandpa, you're telling me you fought you fought a cyclops.
Yeah,
and
right.
It's like, you fought a cyclops. Well, it was a giant being. It had a singular light in the middle of it. Yes, and it would eat people. I'm just thinking about Homer's the what's it called, the Odyssey.
Yeah,
it's like it would eat people. It's like, well, yeah, it was huge. Like, what did all of our mythology. We look back and all of our mythology is just humans fighting against this thing, these things, and eventually they were driven out. And maybe there was one in the pyramids, one somewhere else. Stonehenge was erected to track the time. I kind of like that, and things kind of like diminished. And then they diminished enough, but they recharged it. And so then the AI came, and at first maybe we thought they were aliens. So that would mean that the robots that walk around on the Earth are human-made and human-powered and not part of the AI's network. That's why they don't attack us, because they're made by humans just, 200 years ago, where people just don't remember that's what they are.
Right.
Interesting.
And the androids are clearly a conservative force. I mean, as far as keeping literally the basis of the economic system and the basis of exchange. They're literally keeping the wheels of civilization rolling, so to speak.
Right.
And it definitely sounds like something that, depending before they would do a preemptive strike, that like a safety net program, like if it were to all fall apart, they would still have these things that would go about and then, let's say, aid humanity, to rebuild, right? Because why do they, take a chunk of concrete and tell them how to build concrete? Why do they, come back from some vault with all the seeds? Why do they, instead of having, for the people to, work it all from the ground up, it seems like a safety net of some sort that would have been put in place. And matter of fact did come about.
Also, so I'm going to introduce the villain now. So in the same way, Seth, you've watched Gurren Lagann, right?
Yes.
So Gurren Lagann is this really interesting TV show. You should watch it. It's an anime. But the idea is that there's only a certain amount of human beings on the planet. And if there's more than like 10 million, I don't remember what the exact number is, then these other entities will notice them and then attack humanity. So humanity a long time ago made special allowances so that there could only be a certain amount of human beings by having everyone live in like these bunkers that were like really cramped,
right?
In order to reduce the amount of human beings, because with more humans, they start to spread out, they start to build ships, and then these much powerful entities will come and kill them.
Well, in Stargate Atlantis, in the Atlantis universe, or whatever you call it, galaxy, what was the name of the
Wraith?
The Wraith. Yeah, the Wraith would be, if you had, if your settlement was too successful, it would draw the interest of the Wraith.
Yeah. And in the same sort of vein, they the people who made this atmospheric shield at first, what we have now in the story is a much cruder form of protection, right? With the pyramids to focus it, with the refined, materials to make it, it's much better, right? It's a pure shield that the AI can't get through. But what we have now is kind of atmospheric chain reactions, making an amalgamation of the shield, but also wreaking havoc on the Earth. What this shield does is it doesn't let whatever whatever valuable infrastructure that the AI used to hold, like a silicon-based, a chip or a quantum-based singularity or something, whatever they use to hold the consciousness can't survive through the shield. They can't see through it. It just confuses them and they just can't make it. So the villain, the AI know this, and what they've done is they've been working on creating their own organic brain, their own organic body, right? That they can then send through this shield and not be harmed. Because one thing they can't do, they can't create a ship that doesn't have one of these, right? Because of how the AI is built, anytime they build a ship, it has one of these. If they were to build like a little watch computer, it would have one of these in it. It would have to. It's like their fingerprint. It's like how they understand technology, right? So this has taken them a super long time, but they've built now a squad of, let's say, 50 of these people, their clones, their genetic whatevers, they're things, right? Who knows how to quantify whether a person is conscious or not, right? Taken from cell samples of human beings, which they have, and during this eclipse, they launch their normal sort of salvo of, tanks and big armored vehicles and, a couple 100,000 foot soldiers. But they also launch these 50 beings down, right? And
so they can kind of slip through in the clutter.
Yep. And they can do lots of things, right? They're obviously stronger. They can shift shape shift. It takes a long time though. They can't just like snap their fingers and change. They have to get like a genetic sample from a person, so like a hair, and then they have to like bury themselves underground and wait like a couple of days, and then they can come up and look different. It's like a complex process. But the idea being, because what inevitably happens is the robots come, humanity gets kind of scared for a minute, right? It takes about a week or so. And then all of the cards work so well against these things because their programming just doesn't work that typically humanity kind of dips down for like a couple months and is like, oh my gosh, what's happening? And then they all mobilize and they go on like a year campaign and eradicate all these. And in eradicating them, they get all this new technology, which they then feed to the robots, which the robots tell them how to make it. And it's kind of seen as like a Renaissance era.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a race to who can kill the most robots and the most unique looking robots. And that's why it's kind of seen as a festival, but also kind of scary, but like kind of like a bull run. It's scary, but it's still a festival,
Yeah.
So that's the villain, is these beings that have been created now to be able to subvert, and they're trained to they're trained to try and discover basically what the cards are, because the androids still just have no idea how to tell what the cards are. So it's like, go down there and figure out what unknown object number 12335 is that we have a picture of. But to us, it just looks like a piece of paper, but it possesses some form of energy that we can't understand.
Okay.
So that 50 is maybe too much. Maybe we'll just do 10 as like this is the first time they're trying this sort of thing. Or maybe it's not the first time they're trying it, and Barr knows that, and finally all of the leaders of the known world are kind of in this city, and so is Sophia, and he brings one of these beings forward, and they play kind of a game of mafia, right? Barr has sort of arranged that they're all in this giant manor to like watch the eclipse, and he brings one of these forward and then kind of explains how they can shapeshift, and he kind of explains how that works, and then says, I've locked all the doors, and they go, why? And he brings one out, and it looks like him. And he brings another one out, and it looks like Sophia.
Oh, man.
And he brings another one out, and it looks like, one of the other guys. And they're all talking with the voice of that person and saying, it's me, no, it's actually me. And then this kind of like, the stakes are much more dire than you thought they were. And everyone has like made fun of Barr for years because he's always like really hyped about stuff and telling people to be cautious, but like all of a sudden everyone kind of realizes how intense things actually are.
The Cylons look like us.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'm combining a lot of different stories here.
Yeah, that's just great.
Yeah. So this is
sorry.
No, go, please.
Okay. So I'll bring in the hero's sidekick. It was going to be something else, but with some of the things that we've just talked about, I've changed. It's the same thing a little bit, but basically I'm using a different animal. So it's the hero's sidekick. And my initial thought was the bird, but with this going on and some of the things, I'm changing it to a sheep. His sidekick is a sheep. So we're all familiar with, like, the sheep hear my voice, and they follow me, right? So everyone's all like, not like weirded out, but like, why does Bar have like a pet sheep, right?
Right.
Well, that's the thing. It hears his voice. It won't respond to the android voice.
Oh,
even though everyone else picks up. And so he's got this. I'd like to say maybe it's a ram. For the other thing I had in mind, he's got this ram, and of course he's got it like rigged out for battle and stuff too. Big old horns
armor
and trained almost like an attack dog, but it's like got armor and then like cards up its sleeves for different protections against different attacks and like sensing in case something comes at it, it like initiates a card and like blocks your like different instances and stuff like that. But then it's like his attack dog, right? It hears his voice because with these things out, and that's the thing. I think each of his gunslingers have one too, and maybe not always a sheep, but some kind of a companion animal,
some kind of canary. Yeah, and that would make sense. They would have like a secret language, like a hand signal battle, like an Atreides battle language.
Yeah,
or little, and that's what everyone looks at the weird, the Bar's weird whistling boys. Like they're always acting so cautious and strange,
like a Two Rivers longbowman up in the oak tree sees the bad guys coming.
Yeah.
I think that would be, and I think it would kind of apply to him, and then like all of the gunslingers that he trained, is they all have something like that it hears their voice, because if these things have come and they're trying to take the spots of these important people, or the people that are in essence hunting them, it's kind of the so like you said, if they bring it in almost like a and then there were none, or like a clue, or
like mafia. People play like mafia or werewolf, or trying to figure out who is, are you real? Are you not real? Suddenly everyone who's talking about how great the economy is and how we don't need to put so much work in defenses suddenly seems like really suspicious. And all the paranoid people, are you actually paranoid if they are out to get you?
Yeah.
It's like, I like it. So this is the third episode we'd be recording for this. So typically by 3, we have nailed the story down. So do we want to just go through the story and see how, and then come up with an ending?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So
we're at the scene now. We're at the Nexus, and Bar has locked the doors, and he's brought in these fakes, the copies.
Right.
And, the sheep has done its thing, and you can tell who is who. And, so I guess that's kind of the scene, right, where we are.
Yeah, I'd say that's close to I don't know if that's near the end, maybe like the second half. Because first half of the story, we are sort of setting it up.
Right.
Setting up, the prestigiousness of Sophia, setting up the world, the quirkiness and kind of weirdness of Bar's boys. And also setting up setting up a picture of the sort of general malaise of this is a festival, not a preparation for warfare.
Right.
Because it's been sort of so long. And then something has to happen to sort of increase the stakes. Maybe the eclipse starts. Maybe there's some sort of AI attack or something, and that kind of increases the stakes. And then all of a sudden, Bar goes from kind of Overton window style, goes from seeming kind of crazy and quirky to all of a sudden sort of seeming very like rational and like, thank goodness he thought so crazy like he did, And
there may be some like default programming that when these clandestine AI operatives are exposed, so to speak, that they'll break the peace, so to speak.
Right. I want there to be some crazy thing that happens with the walking robots. Like part of me says I want them to show up at be the Deus Ex Machina, be the Gandalf coming to Helm's Deep. I have that feeling, right? Because the idea, everyone thinks that they are sort of a benign part of the machines.
Right.
And so they kind of have this distrust towards them, but this kind of reliance on them. And then because no one else knows maybe Bar has inklings of it, and Sophia definitely knows that the walking robots are actually powered by this atmospheric stuff. Like they are part of this. They're old. They're as old as the pyramids, basically.
Right.
I don't know.
I would say maybe they come in because I think if it's like some kind of festival where they're kind of seeing who can get most of these other robots, with now the revelation that there's some of these things sneaking in that are not these robots, not the supplying robots, but the AI thing.
The walking robots.
And they're organic. Perhaps they're, maybe they bring the organic ones, was it?
Okay.
So the organic ones, it is revealed in his little mafia game that they have been sending these people, and that's one of the things that his gunslingers, Bar's boys have been, hunting down, and they have all their tricks in the trade. But maybe that's the thing that they put the pieces together that, maybe there's some people that, have never went and traded with the AI robot, or not the AI, but the supply robot, or that they can't, right? They always send their other guys to go do it. They send, someone else to go do the trading for them.
Oh, yeah.
Which might not seem odd, if someone is important enough, but maybe they won't, because just like the cards, it's something that's organic. It's not organic, but it's not human. It's not what they're supposed to be helping, right?
Right. So they just
they can't really read the card,
respond,
right? Because it's outside of that. They don't respond even to the organic hidden ones. They can get past the shield, but they can't. What do you call it? Some of these people, they come up and they can't trade with the supply robot because they don't compute as like real people.
Yeah, as one of the tests that happen to prove whether they are or not actually human. I have this idea, right? So the eclipse happens, the attack starts happening, and this time people are ready, and it's kind of like a harvest. It's less like, even though the AIs send down like tanks and big creatures, it's like a simple shield card blocks all attacks, So it's like, it's this juxtaposition of something really crazy, but then also something just like not that crazy at all. It's just, well, you have your big tank, but I have lightning bolt, which does damage to you and blows up your tank. And I just carry lightning bolt in my pocket. Well, you have to like spend 8 months manufacturing your tank, sort of thing. So people are really proud that they, that's why it's a festival. People are really proud, and they're bringing in these piles of technology and breaking them apart and, feeling really proud of everything that they've accomplished. And Bar is kind of watching, and he tells Sophia, or Sophia tells him, the story of the Trojan horse.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And she's just kind of seeing if he will put 2 and 2 together as to what's happening. And maybe they've been in cahoots for a long time, or they're really good friends, or they're in love, or whatever, And so he, in this sort of desperate act, locks all the key decision makers up with him. And so the story is almost over. It feels like the story is almost over, And then he sort of, and maybe in the story, there were rumors of AI sympathizers, people who would serve the AI, because you can like send light up, you can beam light up into space, you can communicate with the AI. And so there's like these rumors of sympathizers, and, Bar's boys is trying to like track that down and see where that's at. And these robots and these carcasses of these machines are being piled into the city center, and there's people carrying them in, and it's a festival, people are from out of town, it's like all of these things that make it so you wouldn't recognize if a person could just like slip in, and so he brings everyone together. And there's some like short and swift confrontations, right? And people are sort of, people were already jockeying for position to see who could sort of lead the conquered world into the next revolution, or, like industrial revolution. Because what I want is for, at the end of the story, for the Bar to be like, next time we're going to be ready. And Sophia to be like, you don't understand people's capacity to forget. and for people to be like, what a great festival. We sure did destroy all of the automatons.
Yeah.
They're never going to come back. That was their biggest army yet, you know?
But see, then they start using their technology,
Yeah.
which then
and adopting
gets in
it.
place, and then now there they are at, which
And
I think maybe
like using less, maybe using less of the card technology and adopting more of the AI's technology.
Because why wait for a thunderstorm to do that when we can have a machine that conducts electricity, can shoot it out of 2 electrodes?
Exactly. A story that needs a sequel is what I'm getting at. You know what I mean?
And perhaps maybe that's where it comes to. They could use the card of unforeseen consequences,
right?
Which, like you said, it's like, let's say years ago they said disable it, and it spent the last whatever cycle or larger cycle disabling it, that accumulated in the apocalypse, right? That kind of disabled it.
Yeah.
They could use it now and destroy it, but would that kick everybody into a literal stone age? Where like you could never have a wheel again because it would deem that as progress to ultimately AI, and therefore if someone ever made a wheel, it would always break. Would it that like question, if we do this, will it send a chain reaction on down that will basically send us not even just the stone age but beyond that, if there's some kind of thing let loose on the world that will what do you call it, kind of hamper ourselves, be just another oppressive god figure.
Right. So what's the answer? Do they decide to use it or not?
And maybe that's where it ends.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Wait It Gets Better. If you like the ending of this story, let Reed know. His email address is waititgetsbettercast@gmail.com. If you didn't like this story, let Seth know. His Twitter handle is @getsbettercast. If you thought this story was great and perfect, just tell me at either of those two. I'll check them as well. If you have any cool ideas for stories in the future you'd like us to try out, send us an email or a Twitter. Otherwise, you can just wait, because it gets better.